Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Shadowhunters Season 2. So, Shadowhunters was a really cool show that was on Freeform. And I remember this season came out in 2017. And I remember it was back when I was kind of out of the game of what's new on television. I really wasn't studying what was on any of the networks and stuff. I was mostly just watching stuff on DVD. I had been canceled my cable and stuff like that because I just didn't care no more. But then once I got a tablet, I was just kind of curious. I'm like, what kind of shows are out now? You know what I'm saying? And so I went to a couple of streaming sites and I'm looking for stuff to watch, and I'm on Freeform, which was ABC Family at that time, but now it's Freeform. And I see this one show called Shadowhunters. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. The cast looks like a supermodel type cast. I want to know what this is about. And I was really thrilled about what I saw, because it reminded me of the good old days of the 90s of watching superhero shows and Buffy, Charm, Xena, Hercules, stuff like that. I grew up on watching stuff like that, and Power Rangers, And so I was really intrigued about this show. And for the most part, it was pretty cool and pretty decent and stuff, the action, what little action they do have was really good. The magic, what little magic they showed in the show was really cool. They had demons and warlocks and demons and vampires and werewolves, and the werewolves looked like actual wolves and everything. And so there are these shadow hunters that originally was human, known as mundane, those who can't see the supernatural type world, and they was turned into these kind of angelic type warriors type people through the mortal cup. And then others just have offspring that are automatically shadow hunters, and they are the elite of the elite. They regulate everything that goes on in the underling down world and everything to keep everybody in place, like werewolves, vampires, other demons, sealings, warlocks, so nobody gets out of hand and start going around killing humans or try to enslave the world. Shadow hunters are privileged, let's just put it like that. They control everything and regulate everything. And they have a lot of bias towards the underlings. The underlings are people of the underworld, the people I just said, warlocks and demons and stuff like that. And so they think they are all that. You know what I'm saying? And they have a higher power that they listen to, that are angels and stuff. And for the most part, you do get to see the bias and the prejudice that the shadow hunters project, but not as much this season. You do in the third. Now, I will say about the second season, I found the second season to be a bit tedious. I found it to be very boring and everything, and tons of filler and more of a YA novel, which, yes, this is based on a YA novel and everything. And originally, there was a movie that didn't do too well. It kind of tried to it was during that time of the Twilight movies, and it just didn't work. It didn't click. I saw the movie, I didn't like it, but I prefer the television show. But the television show does take its liberties. They do deviate from the books like most other adaptations do. They keep the main plot threads and everything, but then make everything else up as they go. Some fans like that, some fans do not. It's your preference, you know what I'm saying? But like I said before, I kind of found the second season just kind of boring. I've watched the second season probably about 2.5 times, and it's just always been kind of fillery to me. A little bit too YA novelish, and they tried to cram way too much into 22 episodes? It's around 24, I think. And the thing is, a 24 episode arc should be enough to flesh everything out. Problem is, there are 100 characters in this show. So they're trying their extreme best to get through like everything and everyone. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they do a good job of it. Other times it feels a bit rushed. Like the whole Clary and her mother finally reuniting, that was rushed. Her mother dying, that was rushed. And then it was kind of like just one episode after that, she's upset, but then after that, she's completely fine. The whole, Jace potentially being like, Clary's brother and everything, that was, they lingered on that, so that was a good thing. But like the whole romance between like her and Simon was rushed, and then introducing the character of Maya, which they introduced but didn't give too much of a backstory, so she's just like a brand new character. She's in the books and stuff, but it's kind of like they go more into her backstory next season. Then, like, the whole revelation with Simon, that was pretty good between him and his mom, because this season is broken down into two parts, 2A, 2B. 2A is just boring. 2B is a little bit more exciting and everything. Not by much, but it keeps my interest a little bit more and stuff. And, then there's the whole Valentine thing. That just kind of felt sloppy. Like the whole Valentine stuff, it should have been handled so much better. And I feel bad for saying this, but I'm not feeling the actor who plays Valentine. There's just something about him that never feels menacing to me. And I've seen him in other roles, and I've seen him play bad guys before, but he just never seems bad. I forget this one guy's name who played Cole in Charmed. Julian McMahon, something like that his name is. I think he would have been a little bit better of a choice because he always has that evilness look to him. But this dude just never seems evil to me. His plans are kind of like half cut, half baked, and they just kind of sloppily pasted around. But then second B, when the whole like Sebastian thing starts to happen, that's interesting because I didn't know who he was. So the revelation of who he was really intriguing. But it's just so many things that just kind of rush through, like the whole Izzy like drug addiction thing, which was nice to see, but it was just handled so poorly and just rushed all the way through. Then the whole romance between her and Raphael was also once again very rushed and everything. The introduction of a new character was nice, but it would have been nice if they would have had him in there a whole lot more, since he's not in the books and they created him for the show. And like one of the other things that always intrigue me is that whenever they do have action, it's like really good, you know what I'm saying? But there isn't that much action. Sometimes they just be training with their swords, and that's really nice to see. But it would have been nice to see them fight more and fight a little bit longer. It's more of a drama series than it is an action series, but the action is also one of the things that got me hooked in the first season. And the problem with the action is like they rarely go out and fight demons this season. Demons can look like anything, look like humans and actual monsters. You don't get to see an actual monster looking demon like this from the first season no more. Now they're just all human, and if they do transform into their demon face, it's like a really fast twisty, like their face like spins around really fast and you can't see nothing. This is because they saved their budget for the finale, and the finale has a bunch of demons flying around. So I can kind of give them an excuse for that, because the CGI was pretty good on those demons and on the finale. But it still would have been nice to have somebody in practical makeup or just more demons running around with something that makes them look demonic and not human. Also, the whole thing with the vampires and the werewolves was pretty non-existent this season. I still don't understand. What is the point of having the werewolves in the show if, one, you're not going to have them wolf out, which of course, they have to have CGI for that, so you barely see a person turn into a werewolf. And even the human werewolf people, barely do anything this season, and it's very repetitive. Same with the vampires. It's like they could get so much out of that. And plus with the vampires, it's easy. Just have a human with fangs going around attacking people. But of course, these people aren't allowed to go around attacking folks. But then there are some that break the rules. Let's see a little bit more of that. We get to see the ceiling people a whole lot. Well, not a whole lot more, but a bit more and stuff. And the ceiling queen, who were played by two different actresses. I'll get into that a little bit later. It's nice to see their realm, you know, because it looks really nice. And of course, some of the budget went there as well. But other things, like I said, was just like, you know, rushed. Like the whole Luke's sister thing in that coven of women that are also like Shadowhunter people that make the weapons. And, you know, it's just like his sister was just kind of there. She has a plot. Is she good or bad? Then she's completely out for the rest of the season. And it's just kind of like, well, what's the point of even bringing her in? But of course, she'll be in the third season. And it's just one of those things where they try to expand. Like the Luke character, he could have sat this season out and nothing would have changed whatsoever. But he has a bit more to do next season, but I still have a problem with the werewolves because they never really do much in the entirety of the series. Another change is the weapon. The swords have completely changed this season. Like originally they looked like lightsabers and everything, and that's because they used the ones from the movies. But come the second season, they have completely changed. They look more like a bladed sword. They have writing runes on them, and it's the runes that glow instead of the entirety of the sword. I wish they could have did a hybrid. I wish it could have looked like a regular bladed sword, but then once they light it up like a lightsaber, they fight. Because I do like that lightsaber looking effect because it made it more fantasy, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, the swords were like a major upgrade. Another major upgrade is Madness and Warlock powers. The CGI is a whole lot better for them, but their eyes don't really change all that much when they use it, which will kind of get phased out by the third season and stuff. The acting is still pretty good and everything, but one reason for like, you know, this season being different because like this season is probably, like I said before, like it's my least favorite of the bunch. The third season is my all-time fave next to the first season. The first season was good. It's just the problem with the first season is that they explain more and don't show more. That's because they, you know, we're new to this like universe and they felt the need to explain a lot because they couldn't show a lot because they didn't have the budget. And I do have a problem with that. This season they showed more and explained less, which was nice. But one of the reasons for this change is the showrunners. Ed Decter was the showrunner for season 1, but right before season 2 ever started, he left. And till this day, nobody knows why. But then they brought in Smallville showrunners Todd Southkin and Darren Swimmer. So the two guys from like Smallville. Now I like Smallville and everything, right? It was a really good show. It was really good drama filled with like, you know, it was a YA show all of its own, but it had little action. And that's kind of how this one feels. This series, this season at least, feels more like a YA novel than it does an action drama and stuff. And you know, they even have like the love triangles a lot going on in here that aren't really fleshed out that well, and a lot of fillery type episodes, but also stuff happening in the mix. And it just kind of feels a bit Smallville-ish. And the problem with that is Smallville came back out in like the early 2000s and stuff. So that, you know, with this being in the 2010s, close to the 2020s, you needed to upgrade a little bit. Now, I will say, yes, they do get a whole lot better in the third season. They find their footing. But, you know, it is kind of different to go from one showrunner from like the next. I will say with the original showrunner, it just felt more magical, more fantasy and everything, and I like that approach. The only problem, like I said before, is that he told more and didn't show more. And it can get a bit confusing because when you're new to this like I am, you just don't know what the heck is going on, you know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, it is still a pretty good season. I just don't like all the rushy stuff. and because the pacing is just like completely off and everything. And some of the writing with all the love triangles is just kind of like, how horny are these people? Now, the second season was given an intro because the first season didn't have one, just a title card sequence. And boy, I love the intro from season two. It is amazing. It's just like smoldering. It's like, steamy. It's one of the best intros I've ever seen. And like, also, starting with episode 11, when you get into 2B, all of a sudden, Clary, Kate McNamara's character, she starts to narrate right before the show even starts, talking about how her team is some of the best fighters ever, and stuff like that. So that's really cool to have like a little montage intro right before you get into the show. It starts to start, and then of course the intro. I love the diversity in this show. The movie didn't have so much. The movie was basically just white, with only Madness being like Asian. But in the show, they have representation all around. Mostly in that of like, say, well, of course, Madness is still Asian. They have Raphael, who's like Hispanic, I believe. Not sure what the actor is in real life, and I say that only because a lot of people, they play races in this show, but they're not that actual race. Because like, you have Luke, who's now race bent to be black. Maya is also black. I'm not sure what Maya was in the books. When it comes to Izzy, Alec, and their family, I don't know what race they are supposed to be. They're white in the book, but in the show, it's whatever you assume it to be, I guess. Because every member of their family, the actors are a different, complete, and utter race. Like the actress who plays Izzy, she's Lebanese. The actor who plays Alec, he is Italian and Slavic. The actress who plays their mom, she's like has black in her. The actor who plays the dad and the little brother, I believe they're both white. And then you have like, Simon, who's supposed to be Jewish. And like they elaborate a little bit on his Jewish faith in the second season. But not that much. But the actor who plays him is actually Hispanic. He's Colombian and Cuban. Maybe he's of Jewish like faith, I don't know, but he's not played by no Jewish actor. And the woman who plays his mother is half black. I'm just like, it can't be that hard to cast a certain race, and you don't even know what the Lightwood family race is in the show, because everybody's just like everything. But I do love the diversity in this show. It is so great to see a diverse cast and everything, despite what the haters say and everything. So it takes place after last season, which I'm a little confused because it's like not much time has actually went by, because Simon is talking this season and he literally, I think Raphael and Simon are talking. And I think Raphael literally said that, since Simon got bit, only 2 weeks have passed. I'm just kind of like, it can't be. The first season couldn't have taken place over the course of 2 weeks, could it? Maybe it did. But anyway, so it takes place after last season. Hodge portrayed the Clave, and so did Jace, and now they're working for Valentine. Because Valentine literally told Jace, hey man, I'm your dad and everything. So this is a huge revelation because he is crushing hugely on Clary, and she crushes hugely on him. And they've even I think had like a romantic encounter last season. So now they have to put their feelings aside this season because they're now brother and sister. But one of them doesn't want to do that. Yes, there is incest in like this series, more so in the third. And it's totally in the books. I don't understand that whatsoever. I don't know why the writer did that. She can sometimes be a controversial writer. Yeah. And of course, Valentine is out and about, like, what I'm saying, he has the mortal cup and he wants to turn mondanes into that of shadowhunters. Clary's mom has now been rescued and has been now reunited with that of Clary. Simon is going through the trials and tribulations of being a vampire, and it's going to be a little bit daunting to him because his family does not know. So when it comes to that of Clary, played by Kat McNamara, she's come a long way. I remember she was like, I saw her as a teenager in that Disney Channel show, Jessie. And then she was also a teenager in R.L. Stein's The Haunting Hour. And then after Shadowhunter, she had her own series, Walker something on the CW. I never watched it, and it got canceled only because Nexstar acquired it, and like they just didn't want a bunch of the shows. So they just got rid of a bunch of CW stuff. But she's come like a really long way, and so Clary this season is pretty much, she's come a long way as well. Her like 18th birthday, she found out there's like a magical world. Her mom has been keeping all kinds of secrets from her. Her dad is literally Voldemort and everything. It's like she's been going through a lot. Now this season, she becomes a way better like shadow hunter. She learns how to fight a lot better, especially with weapons and stuff. She's a really cool hero. I kind of wish they would have done a bit more with her in terms of like being a hero and stuff. But for the most part, she's just, is piggybacking off of what happened in season 1. Her mom is now back. Valentine has the moral cup, and Jace has abandoned her, and turns out that he is her potential brother and everything, which sucks for her because, she had a huge crush on him and stuff. They could have done a bit more with her character development. Like I said before, it's rushed. It's almost like the new showrunners just like have never seen this show before, and they didn't really know how to handle the characters and stuff. So when it comes down to her and her mom, they cannot get along for some bizarre reason. And it's really bugging because, like, her mom's not even in the show that much. Her mom is only in a couple of episodes until she's killed off. And I'm just kind of like, why? This is what fans have wanted to see. And we wanted to see those two interact a lot, but not bicker all the time. And so the way she dies is that a demon gets into the Institute. And it goes inside people's bodies and it kills people. The only way to get it out is to stab somebody and stuff like that. So when the demon went inside Alec, he killed Clary's mom. And so then it went into Izzy and she had to stab Izzy to get it out. And just like that, her mom is dead. And I'm just kind of like, dude. Now she does grieve because, all they've been doing is fighting since her mom came back. But you think they would have tried to get along a bit more. But then comes something really interesting. She can't live without her mom. And when the prospect of bringing her mom back from the dead occurs, she brings Alec along with her because he feels guilty. And they go visit a warlock. This is when they meet a young girl named Nancy. And so, like, the warlock ladies are like, all right, fine, I'll resurrect your mom if you do this for me, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, they trick her and everything because, the warlock is working for Valentine because somehow Valentine has a way of, like, wooing people. And I don't know how. I really don't. I guess it's out of fear or something. But anyways, so I'm thinking to myself, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Buffy. When Buffy mom died, Dawn tried to bring her back from the dead. Then there was that one episode where they mourned her, and there was like that weird, freaky episode. I was hoping there was something similar like that here, but this show runs at a fast pace and doesn't slow its behind down. So while you do feel the grievance of her losing her mom and her crying at the funeral and this and that, you don't really feel the weight of her wanting to break all the rules and bring her mom back. Now, when it comes to her and Jace, after finding out that, that's her brother, She just like, all right, cool, whatever, bye. And then she starts dating Simon. And she's not even thinking twice about, oh, I miss you, Jason, all this other stuff. And she just completely just like, whatever, screw you, bye. And it makes sense because it's kind of like you don't want to crush on your brother. Now, the whole her and Simon thing is sweet because, it's kind of like he's out of the friend zone now. And you always wanted those two to kind of like get together. And they're really hot and heavy as like a couple. But, things don't last forever. Jace is extremely jealous of it. But, like, when they have to go see the Sealing Queen and everything, she likes to mess with people's heads. And so she wrapped their bodies in like this vine that can kill you. And she told Clary, kiss your true love or something like that, and I'll release both of them. So she goes over and kisses Simon, but that don't work. And the reason for that, because she is still in love with Jace. Now, by this time, it is revealed that Jace is in fact not her brother and stuff, which is a good thing. Because when she found out he was no longer her brother, then she started like crushing on him again, but she was with Simon. But she wasn't gonna cheat on Simon. So when she kissed Jace the freedom, it really broke Simon's heart to the point he just didn't want to talk to her no more. And it was so sad because, you saw her heart like shatter and break along with Simon. Of course, Jace don't care because he still wants like Clary and stuff. Now, towards the end of the season, her and Jace appeared together more and more, and it's to the point where their feelings are starting to develop more. I wish this could have been done a bit delicately, a little bit more, because kind of like, I get it. She was no longer like trying to pine after him because she thought that was her brother and she went with Simon, but it just happened so fast. It like she jumps to whatever guy likes her whenever she can't be with the other and stuff. And it makes her seem kind of like desperate for a man, and I don't like that. And so, like, when Jace is like dead or something like that, and she's talking to the angel Razul, he grants her one wish. And I'll get into that a little bit later when I talk about Jace. Now, there's something Clary can do that's really, really interesting this season. And I don't know if it's in the books, but she has the ability to create her own rooms. And she has the ability, when she creates them, to do whatever she wants. The only thing she's been able to master is open up a portal, the teleport, and shooting out white light from her hand that's kind of like angel light that can kill any demon. It is a huge mystery, and at first nobody knew how this is able to be. Now, this will play a bigger role in the third season, but it turns out her father Valentine experimented on her and Jace and Jonathan when they was all growing up and stuff like that. So that is how she has that ability, because her blood is mixed with that of angel blood. And so, like, when Valentine kills Jace, it enrages her. Now, one thing that's bugged the crap out of me this season was, just like I was expecting Clary to hang out with her mom more, I was expecting for her to hang out with Valentine more, which you never really get to see because they are adversaries and everything. And he disapproves of everything she does, and of course she disapproves of everything he does. But you never get to really see these two interact that much. It's very brief, and wherever it is either he's tied up or he's trying to hurt one of them or something like that. But when he kills Jace, this enrages her, and they have a huge sword fight and everything, to where she finally kills him and stuff. It was pretty cool, but it could have been bigger, you know what I'm saying? Like, they really needed to up the action in that, like, scene. Jace, man, he is going through it this season. All kind of ranges of emotions. So, like I said before, he betrayed the Clave and went to go work for Valentine because he thought Valentine was his father. So, throughout the first half of the season, you do believe that they're father and son. But Valentine did raise him, but Valentine used a glamour spell to pretend to be Jace's father. And so, in a way, he did raise him and stuff to be strong and fierce and all of that. But unbeknownst to him, Valentine experimented on him. See, Jace assumed it was demon's blood, but it was actually angel blood. And so, like, it was just kind of shocking to see him work for Valentine. But when those two are together, they never get along. Jace is constantly trying to like hurt him or something, like, you know what I'm saying? And Valentine is irritated. He's all like, "Oh, you'll never truly turn to the dark side," and all this other crap, knowing that's not his real son, but constantly manipulating him. It's even to the point where he constantly keeps trying to frame Jace as well. Like, there's this albino werewolf that like he wanted Jace to kill, but he wouldn't, so he had like a warlock kill her instead. And Maya assumed that Jace killed the werewolf girl, who was her friend. Because of this, it causes a rift between those two. And even Luke gets involved, thinking that, oh no, Jace murdered a werewolf, so now me and the pack have to go kill him and everything. And so, when the Clay finally captures him, Jason there think of, Valentine just kind of like, I give up or whatever. Alec, his parabatai, was really, really injured. So, of course, they have that bond, that magical bond, and they can heal each other and stuff. So, that was part of the arrangement. But then afterwards, when Jace was with the Clave and everything, they gave him the Soul Sword, one of the second mortal instruments and stuff, along with the Mortal Cup. And so the Soul Sword, when placed in the hands of like, what are they called? Shadowhunter, you automatically tell the truth. So they ask him a bunch of questions, like why he did what he did, and if he's still in love with his sister. At this time, he still thinks that's his sister, and he said yes. Gross. Like I said before, just like in the books, there is incest and everything. And so, like, afterwards, he's back to working with the Clay, but he's in a funk because, Clary is dating Simon. This causes him to just kind of drink, spiral a little bit out of control, and start sleeping with a bunch of random women. But then when he finds out that, like, Clary is not his sister, all he wants is like her, but he can't do nothing because she's with Simon. And we all know how much he hates Simon. Simon is one of the nicest characters and one of the best characters in this show, and Jace is always talking down to him and crap. So at some point in time, Jace literally finds out that the new head of the Institute is his grandmother. And just like her, they are very stubborn and they do things that piss people off. Because there was like a demon in one episode that was like going around killing underlings. No, going around killing shadow hunters. And somebody was framing it to make it seem like werewolves and vampires were doing the killing. So because of this, the Clave is kind of like, oh, we have a rogue on our hand. And we need to start figuring out where every single last underling is. So they wanted to tag all the underlings and stuff. This pisses them off because they're like, yo, man, we don't want you tracking our every location. You know what I'm saying? And this causes a huge problem, and he doesn't want to do it, but he has no choice because he's just following orders and stuff. So basically, this entire season has some really good range of emotion. And I really like how, the actor portrayed it. Now, people have said that this version of Jace doesn't seem like the one in the book. In fact, the one in the movie is more like the one in the book. Skinnier, off-putting, awkward and everything, a bit emo-ish. This one is more like, a manly kind of person. He's big, he's buff, he's stern, he doesn't take crap from nobody and stuff. But I like this version a whole lot better than the one in the movie. And so, like I said before, like, what's his face killed him and stuff. Like Valentine had killed him. And so Clary, when they met with the angel Razul after they found the third mortal instrument and everything, the mortal mirror, Razul the angel grants that person who kind of like resurrects him or whatever one wish. So Clary decided to bring Jace back to life. I'm all like, okay, I understand that. But it's like there are demons roaming around. Don't you want to get rid of them? Don't you want to, like, I don't know, like reverse everything your father did? I mean, but no, she brings him back to life. And at first he seems normal until the end when he starts like, conversing and look like he's transforming, and it's kind of like, whoa, what's going on with him? So something came back with him as he was resurrected. So Valentine Morgenstern, he's basically Lord Voldemort, and but not as scary. People are terrified of this man, and I don't understand why. He's evil and he does bad things, but he doesn't have that appearance of like a really evil man. And I've said this before. I've seen the actor play villainous people before. I just don't feel it. The dude who played Cole from Charm would have been a better like choice. And so like basically his whole thing this season, after getting the Mortal Cup, I assume he was just gonna make a bunch of Shadowhunters, which he does. But he wants more than that. He wants all three mortal instruments that Razul the Angel made for that of like Shadowhunters and stuff. And so he's on a quest to find those. We don't get to see much of the Mortal Cup anymore after it got revealed in the end of like, season 1 and stuff. I thought we'll get a bit more of that, but nah. So now this season he's mostly after the Soul Sword. And of course, the Clave, I forget these people's name. They're these dudes in white cloaks. I think their mouths are sewn up. And they have it. And so and he gets that back from like, infiltrating like, the prison cell and everything. He has to fight like Jace and the person who's the head of the Institute. But he gets his hands on the sword. Now all he needs is for like an angel to activate it, or at least somebody with angel blood. Now, so this makes, him want Clary and stuff. So they have to do their best to keep her away from him. Now, he has a way of persuading people to do what he wants. Like Maxie, the little girl, but he was able to just persuade her by like candy and like the a circus and everything. But like with other people, I guess he does it through like torture, this and that. We really don't get to see none of like his lieutenants or hench people. When we do see his hench people, they're not really like, I guess they're just foot soldiers, but not really like a lieutenant. But we do get to see other people who work for him, like other shadow hunters, like the lady who, Luke's sister and stuff like that. And we get to see like warlocks, and that's about it. Because Dot is still alive and he's using her. Also, he's keeping this one angel whose name I forget alive so he can like, do bad things with him. So he can experiment and stuff like that. The angel dude is like, an old man when we see him and he's crying out, and only like, Jace and Clary can hear him because, his blood is in their blood and stuff. And they free him and he disappears, but then he comes back towards the end of the season, now a younger man. We'll see him again in the third season. So it is kind of odd how he's always able to like, manipulate people and get them on his side, like the Ceiling Queen and stuff like that, and other shadow hunters from other clays. And it's just kind of like, why? Like, why exactly, We don't really get to see him do anything all that scary. We know why Luke hates him and Luke tried to kill him because, he's responsible for Luke turning into a werewolf because Luke and his wife had an affair. And so so after that betrayal, he tricked Luke into going somewhere where there was a bunch of werewolves and he ended up getting bit. But other than that, like I just don't get why people are so scared of this dude. Now, one thing that's interesting about him is that, like Voldemort, he hates underlings. He only likes shadow hunters. He hates werewolves. He hates demons. He hates vampires, so on, so on. And he wants to kill them all, which is one reason why he wants the Soul Sword. The Soul Sword has the ability to kill any demon. You don't even have to strike at them. All you gotta do is hold it up in the air or hold it up mid-air, and it glows and shines out light and kills everybody in that room that's a demon. It is a very powerful weapon and stuff. And so, like, he needs Clary to get it. So at some point in time, he is captured. And he spends sometimes a good remainder of a couple of episodes in captivity and everything until he's able to make his escape by this other person. But then he ends up getting captured again. And there's one episode where a demon switches his mind with that of madness. So they switch like bodies because that one demon really, really hated him. But they get switched back and all this other crap. And so, like with the Soul Sword, if a demon touches it, it like deactivates or something like that, right? And you can't use it no more. So Jace is gonna get it so Clary don't have to. But it turns out Jace doesn't have demon blood, he has angel blood. And he activates the sword, which Valentine uses to kill tons of vampire seedlings and werewolves. But the thing is, technically, shouldn't Jace have already activated the sword very early on in the season when he was being interrogated and stuff? I don't understand why he had to reactivate it again, but whatever. But Clary, using her runes and stuff, she's able to deactivate the sword, but it gets stolen by somebody. And so, like, when Valentine, like I said before, when he experimented on like Jace can activate his runes without a stele. Basically, that's like a wand type pen that you can just write runes on your body and activate them and all kind of cool stuff, right? Now, the person who stole the sword and also broke Valentine out of jail was Sebastian. Sebastian is a British man from the London Institute. And so, like, it is later, like, at first he saved Izzy from, like, a demon. And he's like at first he was this, like, nice guy, right? But we could see something weird was going on with him. His hands kept changing and stuff. After a while, he started acting a little bit aggressive, but he mostly befriended everybody in the Institute to where, they would take him along on missions. And he was really interested in that of Clary. But then it later turned out that he is in fact evil, and he's been keeping the real Sebastian in the closet because Sebastian's cousin came to visit. Now, this dude is white, but his cousin is Asian. And they never explain that. And so, like, when the real Sebastian escaped, like, the closet, he ended up killing him. But then it's later revealed when he frees Valentine that he is in fact the real Jonathan. Jonathan is the real brother of Clary, and his mom and Clary's mom and dad are his and stuff. But it turns out that, when Valentine kind of like experimented on him with demon blood and stuff like that, he's a really bad dude where he ended up killing a kid when he was younger. Because of this, Valentine banished him to this type of demonic place, and he hated it there. And this is where he met Lilith and everything. Now, he did at first wanted to kill his father, but later changed his mind. Now, Jonathan is very obsessed with Clary because I think they're twins or something like that. Or I don't know. I don't know if they're twins or not. But he is like in love with her. And some really gross stuff that happens in season three. So, anyway, like, he is like obsessed with her, and but his face and body is like literally burnt because he had to do something with fire when he was in a demonic place and something like that. I forget what. But I did like this whole ruse they had of him being the real Jonathan. This is what really helped season the 2B because like I said 2A was really boring, but 2B was really intriguing and stuff like that. And it was part of this mystery of who the heck is this guy. Now, when Jace is the one who ends up killing him and stuff, but then right before he dies, he activates like a room and he opens up a portal to the underworld, releasing a bunch of flying demons. But then he also ends up releasing this demonic looking woman who turns out to be Lilith. And we'll see more of her in season 3. Simon. I really like Simon. He's cool. He's one of my all-time favorite characters in the entire series. Probably is my favorite character. Although Izzy was my favorite in season 3. I really like what they did with him this season. Remember, like, he's a vampire now, like officially. And his life is now have to change. You gotta remember, I think he was like his last year of high school going to college and stuff. And so he finally got the girl of his dreams, only for her to break his heart. And so with this season, we get to see the stress of him being a vampire, having to adjust his life. He can't go out in the sun. He can't tell his mom or sister what's going on, and he has to hide certain things from them. When he goes back home, he, gets like dark curtains and all this other stuff. And here she coming in trying to open the curtain, like, why are you still sleeping? Blah, 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 stuff like that. And so it's really hard for him to try to hide that from her. And there was one time where she walked in on him and he was literally sucking blood out of her rat. But then he lied and said, oh, this is like for the band I'm in and this is part of the special effects and blah, 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 and stuff like that. Mostly he interacts with that of Raphael a little bit because Raphael, clear things up with his mom, but then like, oh yeah, we're in the band and blah, 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 and stuff like that. Now, the thing about Simon is that once he gets his heart broken, he does get consoled by that of Izzy, but they don't date like they do in the books and stuff. But what's interesting is that they gave him a new love interest in the form of Maya. So Maya, at first, she was not interested in him because, of course, he's a vampire and she's a werewolf. But then later on, she starts to understand where he's coming from. He was a mundane just like her. And, he's having to adjust his life like she does. And like when she sees he gets his heart broken by that of like Clary and all this other stuff. And, she doesn't like Jace, but then at the same time, Jace is mean to like Simon. And so her and Simon start to bond where she pretends to be his girlfriend to make his mom happy and stuff. And, those two really do have like a really cute like relationship. And when it comes to her, we don't know much about her like at all in terms of backstory. We'll get that in season 3. All we know about her is that she's very headstrong and very stubborn. Like when Valentine wanted Clary to activate the sword that will kill, of course, demons and stuff, she took it upon herself to be like, all right, well, I know what to do. Let's just kill Clary. So she literally tries to kill Clary. This pisses off Luke and the others where he literally puts her in the storage unit and stuff. And she's freaking out being in there in a closed space by herself. She also keeps trying to kill Jace because like she thought that he killed her friend, that albino werewolf and stuff. But then later on, when Jace can't have Clary and she can't have Simon, her and Jace decide to sleep together. This is a one-off and nothing ever comes from it. Now she is a bartender. I think at the Howling Moon, I think it's called, where a bunch of like Muldanes and werewolves and stuff like that, and other demons get to go. So other than that, there's really not much about her because we don't know much about her other than that she's stubborn and very, very headstrong. Luke. He is here this season, but not much. This is a recurring theme because in the third season, because I already recorded the audio for the third season like a year or two ago, he's barely in the third season. I don't know if he had like another project or what, but he's barely here and he doesn't really do much at all. He had more to do in the first season than he did in the second. But basically, his pact is pissed at him because, he's letting Simon stay there, who's a vampire. He's like, the whole thing with Jace and some other stuff. And so somebody tries to like challenge him to be like, the alpha and stuff like that. But he is the alpha. He doesn't really interact with Clary that much this season, but he's always there for moral support. The whole thing with his sister is just kind of like up in the air. You think she's good at the beginning, but then it turns out she's working for Valentine and she's scared of Valentine. Then she's kind of trying to help Clary. Then Valentine has her again. And it's just one of those messy storylines that just doesn't go nowhere. But he does try to kill Valentine at least twice in the season, which is kind of nice. Because, of course, he's a werewolf because of Valentine. But that would never happen if he never had that affair. But then other than that, like I said before, really he doesn't do much. He is, however, given a new partner named Olivia. Because remember, his first partner was like a underling and ended up dying. Olivia is very, very, very interesting character. She doesn't really do much, but she does not trust Luke whatsoever, and she is constantly spying on him to where she is starting to see some strange stuff going on, but she doesn't really know what is really going on and why he interacts with certain people that are a lot younger than him. Now, more stuff will be revealed about her in the next season because she starts to get very suspicious and starts to figure things out. Izzy's interesting this season. They took her in a very different direction. One different direction they took her in is that, like, she used to dress more revealing in the first season, like she does in the books. But they toned her outfit down this season. She wears fancy dresses and stuff and skirts and like boots, but she's not as revealing as she was in the first season. Basically, in the first season, she's kind of like Kanye's West's new wife, walking around all half naked and stuff like that. Not to that extreme, but you get it. But this time she basically she used to dress like a streetwalker in like the first season, which is kind of how Kanye West's new wife dresses and everything. But this season she's more toned down and all this other stuff. And at first she doesn't really have a storyline whatsoever. Her parents are still around, but she finds out that they're broken up because he cheated on her and stuff like that. But then they decide, okay, we got nothing for Izzy, so I know what, let's give her a drug addiction. I don't get it. I don't get it. So basically, remember when I said when Clary had to stab her in the back in order to get that demon out? So her shoulder's been acting up. The new head of the institute gives her something called Yin Fin, which is vampire saliva. It's basically a drug that can heal you, but it has side effects. It makes you an addict. So he gives it to her, knowing that she will become an addict, and she becomes an addict and everything. And it's to the point when she runs out, she starts running to Raphael to get bit by him, just so, she can get her fixed. When Alec finds out, he makes Raphael stop. So then she starts going into the streets looking for vampires. This is how she got attacked by that demon, and then Sebastian saved her. Now, her and Raphael actually start up a relationship this season. It's really messy in terms of the way it's written. because it's like at first he's just biting her, they're not dating, then they kind of are, then she breaks up with him in a weird way, but then she kind of gets back with him and everything, and it's just odd. And in terms of Raphael really not even in this season that much. He interacts with Simon, like, because Izzy's all like, all right, if he's gonna mess with your mom, then we gotta mess with him. I know his older sister who's like 80, 90, something like that. So let's take a picture with you next to her, which pisses him off. Now, something interesting I didn't mention with Simon is that Simon ended up drinking Jace's blood. And of course, he has angel blood in him. So this causes Simon to be a day walker. He can now walk around in the daytime. Raphael is very interested in this, and so are other vampires, to the point where other vampires are willing to follow that of Simon, but not that of Raphael. And so we do get to see her having withdrawal and, having to fight her addiction. That only lasts for a couple of seconds, because after that, she basically puts on some makeup and wants more of a fix. After this, she's completely healed with the withdrawal, and she's basically just doing shadowhunter stuff. She becomes, again, a more capable fighter and all this other stuff. But it's just kind of odd. They gave her this weird romance and a weird drug addiction and stuff. Other than that, she does get like scratched by like a demon towards the end of the season, but it doesn't faze her. There's a reason for that in season 3. Alec and Madness. So I'm gonna combine these two, but really they share every scene together and they really don't do nothing individually. And for the most part, Alec really doesn't do much this season. He's injured at first and needs Jace to help him, which causes Madness to be very concerned. They're still in a relationship from that of the first season, and their relationship is very beautiful and handled very well. They truly do care for one another. And because Alec is gay and Madness is like bi and everything. And so like they have a lot of interaction with each other and a lot of like heartfelt moments. Alec does feel very guilty about what happened to Clary's mother, because he's the one who ended up killing her, but he had a demon possessing him the entire time. Now, at one point, Alec does become the head of the Institute and everything. But when it comes to these two, they do end up breaking up. See, the Sealing Queen wants to go against Valentine. And so she starts building her own army, and somehow she persuades Madness to turn on Alec and everything, which causes a problem between the two. But then, she ended up making a deal with Valentine and ended up betraying everybody. These two eventually do get back together at the very end, because that portal, the demonic portal that Jonathan opened up, Madness had to close and stuff. Now, we do find out something interesting about Madness, and that has to do with his mom and his stepdad. Basically, he killed his stepfather because he was abusing his mother, and his warlock powers were starting to come in. This is just like flashbacks and stuff like that. But we will actually get to see his real father in season 3. And him and Alec are going through like an emotional roller coaster. Now, we do find out that Alec's mother still doesn't approve of their relationship, but it's for completely different reasons now. Other than that, these two mostly just have like the whole romance thing going on and nothing really dramatic. So the Sealing Queen and everything. The Sealing people are people who cannot tell lies. They live in a very fantasy, mystical looking place. They look kind of like elves almost, and they're really good fighters. They're also very horny and everything. But she likes to play tricks on people's minds. At first, she was played by a teenager. This teenager girl, I saw her in the 100, but then later on, she transforms herself to look a bit older, and it's played by Sarah Hyland, or Highlander, or whatever her name is, Hyland, I think, from Modern Family. And the only reason why this is happening is because the actor who plays Jace, him and her used to date around this time, but they no longer do. They broke up, and she's now married to somebody else. I do remember there was an instance where she had a problem with one of her boyfriends on set. Not him, but somebody else. But then I don't know what happened between her and the Jace actor. I don't know if it was like a good breakup or a bad breakup. By the way, they're broken up. And I hate saying this because I do like Sarah Hyland as an actress when she does comedy. Here, however, she tried her best, but the teenage girl outshined her. Heidi. So when Simon became like a daywalker and everything, and he had his heart broken by that of Clary, he started hanging out with this one vampire. They went to a club, they got really drunk. And then he went to a club where there are tons of mundanes who know who vampires are and let them drink for them. So he decided he's gonna dance with this one girl named Heidi and then bite the crap out of her and feed on her. Then he was so drunk he passed out and don't know what happened. Heidi ended up dead. He thought it was him and Luke and Olivia was after him, but then it turns out it was another vampire, which he ends up killing and stuff. But, he's basically Heidi's sire. She has like his DNA in her, and so she has that fix like he did in season 1. And when what's his face like killed her, she's basically dead now and resurrected, and we will see a whole lot more of her in season 3. And basically, she becomes a handful for Simon and the rest of the vampires and stuff. Madsy is the goddaughter of that one warlock that was gonna resurrect Clary's mom, but later betrayed her. Not much is known about her, but she wears a scarf around her neck. When she removes it, she has these gills that releases a gas that puts people to sleep. Valentine uses her to do his bidding, and she's very powerful and stuff, but she never ever speaks. Once she is rescued, she's later under the care of Madness in the 3rd season. Victor is a new character in the show, and I believe he's not in the books, but he's based off another character. He is an advisor from another institute, but he ends up taking over this institute, and he does not do a very good job. He's very stern and comes off almost villainous and stuff. He's the one who gives Izzy that drug that makes her addicted to it. Then, of course, when Jace turned his back on the Institute and the Clave, he sets out a manhunt, a very aggressive one, to take down that of Jace. When Jace is captured and everything, this is when Valentine broke in, and him and Jace had to fight off Valentine, and Valentine ended up stealing the sword. Because of this, he was reprimanded and sent back to his other institute and stuff. He's a very interesting character, but has some shadiness to him. He explains his actions with his heartfelt story about something tragic that happened in his past. But when you get into that of season 3, he does something that is very, very shocking. And for the most part, I wish he would have stayed a little bit longer, because he clashed heads with just about every main character there is. And he could have been almost a villain if they really wanted to make him that way. So, the mortal instruments. So Valentine wants all 3 because he wants a wish from that of the angel Razul, so he can do his bidding. So basically, he just wants to get rid of all demons. He hates them to death. So he already has the Mortal Cup, which can turn mundanes into shadowhunters. The Soul Sword, which can make you tell the truth or kill demons. But what about the Mortal Mirror? See, Razul, at one point, I guess he didn't want people to have all these 3 things, and so he kind of made it seem like it's an actual mirror. But it turns out the mirror is actually a lake, and it's a lake that Valentine used to take his kids and stuff. Once you go there and you put all the instruments inside the lake, Razul will show himself, and of course, grant a wish and everything. So season 2 is not terrible, it's just kind of lackluster. It starts off very slowly paced, which ends up just being boring. But it does start to pick up steam in the second half of the season and gets a whole lot more interesting, but still in that boring kind of way. With the new showrunners coming in the last minute and everything, they had to quickly do the best they could. And they did a pretty good job. It's just you can tell they rushed through a lot of stuff. And they didn't really understand these characters from that of like last season, like Izzy. Like they literally had nothing for her to do this season and stuff. And kind of the same way with Alec and Madness is other than they just in a relationship and that is literally it. And he did handle, like I say, like Simon and Jace really well. Clary kinda and everything, but like it is what it is. I still think season three is a whole lot better. Now you can actually watch this on Hulu. It is no longer on the Freeform app. Alrighty, well I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.